yourself in a situation where you're doing everything by the rules, but you're not getting the result you want? Have you ever found yourself in a situation also where you're looking for a job, but nobody will even get you an interview? I see some nods over there. Well, I'm going to tell you a story about how I finally got a job after deciding to break some of those rules that people have been telling me about how I should go about doing that. There's a famous Mike Tyson quote that a lot of you probably know. You know, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, and it's connected to the story because I had a plan and then I got punched in the face. Metaphorically speaking, universe punched me, or it pushed me a little bit and sent me in some direction that I didn't want to take beforehand. So it's winter of 2010, and I'm looking for a job. I've been looking for a job for the past few months, but nothing has materialized so far. I keep sending my resume. I go to job boards, look for the job descriptions, and then send a few resumes out, but mostly just disqualify myself, because for those entry-level jobs that I'm looking at, they always seem to want 3 to 5 years of experience, right? So I look at it, disqualify myself, move on. And then I decide to maybe give, food service industry a try. I figured, maybe I can be a bartender. So I go on Craigslist, send out what seems like hundreds of resumes, and don't hear anything back in return. Apparently, those bartender and serving gigs also want somebody who has, quote unquote, 5 years of NYC high level of experience. As if they need somebody, as if it takes 5 years to learn how to carry a plate from the kitchen to the table. But anyway, at that point, I'm getting desperate and ethics go out of the window, and I decide to lie. I lie on my resume. I give myself a full year of experience in a high volume NYC restaurant, which I found out from a gossip column in the magazine that went out of business. And the reason why I picked that specific restaurant is because if they chose to, call and double check that I actually worked there, they couldn't get through because it was closed. I was so naive that I would think that a restaurant's actually called to check, somebody's background. That's how naive I was at that time. Anyway, that tactic somehow worked, and I got a response. I got an invitation to a group interview. So, okay, that worked. So now I'm fast forward to the day of the interview. It's February afternoon, late afternoon. I'm driving in my Honda Civic to New York City from New Jersey, where I lived at that time. And I'm driving in the car, listening to some motivational tapes or whatever I had on. And I realize that I'm about to miss the exit where I need to go. It's the last exit before they approach the Lincoln Tunnel, and it is, if I miss it, I have to go in New York, pay a $10 toll, and by the time I come back with the traffic, I'm definitely going to miss my interview. So, instinctually, I'm in the fastest lane on the left side, and the exit it's a 3-lane highway. So I swerve over, and I somehow decide, get over the 2 lanes, but on the 3rd lane, I don't see a truck in my blind spot, and it hits me, and it clips me. Nothing bad, I'm fine. The car's operational, but the bumper falls off. So the bumper's dragging on the side. So I pull over, wait for the whole thing to happen. The police comes over, files a report. Luckily, nobody's hurt. No, not me, nor the other driver, even though he gives me some dirty looks my way. But, I'm not in jail and I'm not in hospital, so everything's good. But at that point, I realized that I'm not going to make this interview. It's just not going to happen time-wise. But I'm still sitting there in the car listening to those motivational tapes that I have been listening to before I got hit. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what do I do now? Do I give up? Do I just go home? I mean, I have a dilemma, right? Do I go home and admit defeat to myself that this didn't work out? Or do I just persevere and go on? I mean, I do have a good excuse. I got in an accident, so I can go home. But then, if I were to do that, I'm thinking to myself, I would just be telling myself that all those hours and days of reading and listening to motivational tapes and books are just a gigantic waste of time, and when push came to shove, I backed down, I didn't do anything with it. So I decided to go into the city and let's see what's going to happen. So what's the plan though? The plan is to literally go into person and knock on the doors, walk into the restaurants, and ask for the job. And how is this connected to the whole punch in the face thing? Because I would never do this beforehand. People told me that, don't bother coming into the restaurants, don't try to walk in, just send the resume and wait for the call back, as I did for many times. It didn't work. So I learned my lesson, and I didn't learn my lesson at the time. I'm realizing now that I'm going to do a desperate measure and just go and show up and see what happens there. So I drive into the city. I go to Restaurant Row, what is called a one block where there's a bunch of restaurants in one row. And I start knocking door to door. And luckily somehow, by the time I reach the end of the block, I get myself a job. So I'm happy. I'm super happy, stoked, come out, go to where I parked my car, and the car's not there. And I'm thinking to myself, could somebody steal my car that has no front bumper? It looks in a pretty bad shape. I mean, it's unlikely. And then I look around and I see a sign, and it says, no parking after 4 or your car will be towed, something to that effect. And I'm checking the time, and it's literally like 4:15, and I'm like thinking to myself, how the hell is it possible? Are they waiting there? And as soon as the clock strikes 4, do they just jump on the car and tow it? I'm mad. I'm mad as hell, and I'm frustrated, but you know, as soon as I get one thing, something else is taken away from me, right? So I have to deal with another problem. Like, why is this happening to me? Anyway, I go to the tow pond where they take the cars and find out my car is indeed there. At least that's a relief, it's there. But after I wait in a long line to get to the window where I can pay to get my car out, I found out that I cannot take the car out. Why not? Because the car is registered under my father's name, and I have to either use cash or debit card, and I only have a credit card and don't have enough money on my debit card because I'm running out of money, and that's why I'm in this desperate situation, right? So I have to also I have to defeat tell myself that I'm defeated and go home and either borrow money or scrap it or get it somewhere, right? But I don't want to do it, so I decide to go back to the place where I got the job, which I'm starting next week, and ask them if I can work that night. So hopefully be able to make enough money to go and get my bail out of my car, pay the ransom, so to say. So I go back to the restaurant, and no, thank you very much, they have enough people for that night. So I keep doing the same trick as I did before, and I keep going down to different bars, and after a while, after like 10 or 11 tries or something like that, I actually kept count how long I'm going to keep going until I get a job. I go into a dive bar, and a guy actually short-staffed, somebody didn't show up, and he tells me, yeah, it's okay, you can start tonight and make money and work, and hopefully you'll make enough $90 or so that I needed to get that car out. And I'm super happy. I start pouring drinks, start feeling grateful for this, newfound sort of confidence that I get, out of this metaphorical punch in the face that I got, after I got hit in the car. Anyway, so I make enough money, just enough money. It was literally like $5 over the limit that I needed to go. And 4 a.m. in the morning, after the bar is closed, I go there and get my car out. Long story, moral of the story, I guess, sometimes it's good to get hit or punched in the face, literally or metaphorically speaking, because it leads you to step out of your usual way of doing things and try something new, a new technique or a new approach that didn't work or you didn't think would work before, but it will lead you to get what you want at the end. Thank you.